We're following breaking news on Capitol Hill. The House just voted on the future of TikTok in the U.S. Lawmakers considering a bill that would require Chinese company ByteDance to sell TikTok or face a ban in the United States. NBC senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins us now with more on this. The final vote here, 352 to 65. Overwhelming, bipartisan. Sahil, this bill now goes to the Senate, where its future is less clear. But this is a big step. So what would this bill do if passed?
That's right, Joe. This is a huge vote, 352 members of the House. It needed a two-thirds majority to pass under this process, and it cleared that with a wide margin to spare. There were some notable opponents here from both the left and the right. Some progressive members like Mark Pocan and Pramila Jayapal opposed it. They said the process was too rushed. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is one of them. Others opposed it from the right, like Congressman Thomas Massey, who argued that there were First Amendment concerns. But nevertheless, a huge vote that would force TikTok's parent company to sell it or get banned. Remember, the heart of the problem here is that TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is a Chinese-based company based in Beijing, subject to Chinese law that says if China asks the company for information, it is required to hand it over, and that information could include user data on some 150 to 170 million Americans who use it. That's a tantalizing trove of information that the Chinese government could, in theory, get its hands on if that law were to be triggered, which is why the U.S. government considers this a national security threat. So that's what the bill would do, force ByteDance to sell TikTok or face a ban in the United States. It goes to the Senate now, where there's less urgency about this bill, and senators have a whole bunch of different ideas about, how to approach this. Some of them want a broader approach that covers categories of companies, not simply one company, maybe other Chinese companies, maybe other companies controlled by foreign adversaries. So the fate of this bill in terms of getting to President Biden's desk is still very much up in the air, Joe.
TikTok has put on a full-court press to try and stop this from happening, including going to Washington, bringing people of small businesses that rely on TikTok to Washington. What is TikTok saying about this movement right now?
Yeah, there's been an aggressive lobbying blitz from TikTok, which kind of flared up last year when we first started hearing, a meaningful push on Capitol Hill to ban TikTok. They have flooded Capitol Hill with content creators, several of whom have millions of followers, pleading with lawmakers to protect the app, arguing that their own livelihoods depend on it. There are a lot of young people in particular, Joe, who are vigorous users of TikTok, vigorous users of this app, and rely on it to get their news, rely on it for entertainment. So TikTok has been trying to take advantage of that. They've also issued push alerts and notifications to many of their users, trying to send them to, light up the phone lines, to burn up the phone lines of congressional offices in a bid to save it. It does seem to have had some impact. I mean, if you look at some of the no's on the list, they represent towns with lots of young voters. One example there is Mark Pocan, who represents Madison, Wisconsin, a lot of college students there. He told me he was simply not convinced by the administration's security briefings, that in fact it was so unconvincing to him that it moved him from being open-minded to no. He's obviously in the minority here because most House lawmakers do support this bill to ban TikTok. Most senators we talked to also support the idea of doing something that would change the way TikTok is currently operating in terms of its ownership, the links to the Chinese government. Whether that happens in the Senate, very unclear still. It's got a long way to go. And as I mentioned, senators just don't have quite the same level of urgency that House members did in zooming this bill to the floor with that unanimous committee vote last week and this full House vote today that just passed the chamber, Joe.
One person who's moving in the opposite direction of many members of Congress is former President Trump. He wanted to ban TikTok back in 2020. Now he says he opposes this ban that was just passed by the House. So often we see Republicans fall in line with Trump. Clearly that didn't happen here. Why not?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Joe. I think Donald Trump's influence on Capitol Hill is very, very significant with Republicans, but it tends to be on issues that he genuinely cares about and that lawmakers believe he genuinely cares about. This was a very abrupt reversal from Donald Trump, and a number of his ardent supporters say that, they believe he was a great president, that they will support him again in the 2024 election. They'll even campaign for him, but they say he's simply wrong about this. That includes Congressman Troy Nehls of Texas, a vigorous Trump supporter, endorsed this bill. The reasons are, it's anybody's guess, really, but, Joe, there is a trend where Donald Trump's influence tends to be the least on legislative matters, where a lot of lawmakers, a lot of even Republican lawmakers who are his allies, don't take him as seriously. They don't believe he's actually committed to this and that he'll actually use his clout to punish them, to turn his voters against them if they cross him on this. This seems to be one of those examples.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.